the Jedi to end.
Okay, so we are here with The Last Jedi today, and I'm going to get straight in and talk about the two things that I've noticed people to be complaining about the most when it comes to The Last Jedi. Now, number one is how Luke Skywalker was portrayed in The Last Jedi, and number two was the use of humour. Now, on the use of humour, I found that a lot of it was quite awkward, So, for instance, when Luke Skywalker throws the lightsaber behind him, I found that to be quite awkward humour. Everyone laughed who was in the cinema. I laughed. I thought it was funny. But in my head, I just thought, would he do that? I don't know. It feels like that could be an emotional moment and have greater impacts than it actually does. So my idea for that was, instead of him throwing it over his head, he could maybe have like a slow motion shot of maybe underneath Luke Skywalker, looking up at his hand, and just have him slowly, just slow motion, it just falling out of his hand as he lets go, and then walks off like he normally does. Now, I think that would have a greater emotional impact. Have John Williams do some sort of sad music, whatever it is he does best, and then have that stare with Rey. All that is fine. I just think that moment of him chucking it over his head was just kind of wasted. Now, this type of humour was all over the place. So the kind of cool with Poe Dameron and General Hux, it was hilarious. I just think it went on a bit too long. I think that could have stayed in the film if I was editing it like myself. I could have stayed in the film. That was fine. Just kind of shorten it a bit, have that little joke, and then go straight into the action, because the action was just amazing. The special effects, the CGI, just everything, just showing new skills that Poe Dameron possesses. Back to humour though, so the stuff they did with BB-8 I thought was fine. I think if they cut out every funny moment in it, apart from anything to do with BB-8, then that would be just enough for it to feel like an old Star Wars film. Because the originals, they had humour dotted throughout, but it wasn't enough to kind of take you out of the moment. And I think the BB-8 things, the bits with the droids in the originals, that was where most of the humour came from. And I think that that amount would be perfectly fine. So on to the next point about Luke Skywalker and how he was portrayed in The Last Jedi. I think it was fine. I loved Mark Hamill's performance with it. I had no problem with how Luke was portrayed. I think that him being slightly darker was a good turn. And everyone's criticising how he was written. It's like, oh, he went to kill Kylo Ren. That's not something that Luke Skywalker would do. He's been traumatized. He's had everyone around him has died. He just finds out that Han Solo dies as well. That's after he tries to kill Ben, but still, he's just had just a terrible life. Let's be honest. And he's managed to bring back his father to the light, but he sees that the Jedi and the Sith isn't the way to go. He sees there's darkness in Ben, and he knows that if he allows this person to live, he will ruin everything he has ever worked for, everything that he believed in bringing people to the light and training them to be Jedi. And he doesn't want the Jedi to die again at that moment. He doesn't want the light to go. So I understand why people are angry with this portrayal, but to me that didn't affect me. I thought that was perfectly reasonable. One thing that did annoy me was the marketing for the movie. It implied that Luke was going to be like part Jedi, part Sith. He's light and dark. It implied that he was going to be slightly darker than we knew him in the originals, apart from Return of the Jedi, where he came in with the black robe, and you were like, whoa, what's happened here is he become a Sith, because we only thought Siths wore black, that kind of thing. And I think that they really they tried to imply that that's where they were going, but it didn't go there for me. It showed that it was a broken man, but that's all it was. He was still believed in the light. He was criticizing Rey for being tempted by the dark, so that shows that he had nothing to do with the dark side of the Force. So that brings me on to Rey. Now, Daisy Ridley, I thought, did great. I think she did better than she did in The Force Awakens. I found her in The Force Awakens, I don't know whether it was the writing or how she acted it, I have no idea, but I just felt it just a bit off. I didn't really enjoy her performance in the Last Jedi. In The Force Awakens, in The Last Jedi, I thought she was much better. I loved her scenes. I think they needed to focus more on Luke and Rey's scenes. They needed to add more to that, because the moments we did get, I thought, were brilliant. I mean, we only got two lessons here, Luke. You promised 3, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure you did, and we only got 2. Now, obviously, that they had a bit of humour with the leaf or whatever it was, where he whacked it around the wrist. And I mean, I laughed, but once again, awkward humour. Cut that out. Keep that serious. I think if Luke went into, if he was the darker Luke, embracing the light and dark that they had implied he was going to be, and if he taught her those lessons about light and dark, I think that dark side cave or whatever it was down there, I'm not too sure what the name for that weird drop was, but I think that they could have explored that a bit more, because Rey went down there, she kind of saw those reflections of herself. She asked to see her parents, and it came into like a reflection of herself, and they just went nowhere with that. And I thought, oh, they kind of missed something here. Now, I think that also brings me on to Rey's parents. So Rey's parents are nobody's junkyard people, or whatever the official quote was, from Kylo Ren. I think that is true. I don't think, even if it's not true, and they come out and say, "Oh no, Luke was your father," I think that would just feel really off. I think they now need to continue with that idea of her being a nobody now that they've done it. And I think that, I mean, it's a good idea, but it's the way that it was set up in The Force Awakens. J.J. Abrams implied that the mysteries of Snoke and Rey's parents, they were like hyped up. Now, some people were saying, oh, it's the fans who hyped them up, and yes, they did. They were putting theories out like Mace Windu as Snoke, Darth Plagueis as Snoke, and I think that they were brilliant theories. And I think most people wanted it to be Darth Plagueis, or at least just someone completely new. Definitely not Mace Windu. But I think that it was hyped up so much in The Force Awakens that saying it was nobody was a huge mistake. I would be fine with it being random people if they didn't hype it up. That's what I'm saying about that. I think that the connection that Rey and Kylo Ren had, I think that was a really good idea, bringing the light and dark together. I think they could have gone a bit further with that and actually have them team up properly, and maybe go into episode 9 with them teaming up, and then in episode 9 them breaking away and coming back together or something like that. I think they should have ended it with Rey and Kylo Ren, and some people said that they could have cut out the entirety of the battle on, I've forgotten the planet name, but that red and salt planet, or the last battle on there. They could have cut that all out, and that literally could have been half of episode 9 already done. The ending of episode 8 should have been where Kylo and Rey teamed up, killed those guards. That also brings me on to Snoke. Now, killing Snoke, once again, I would have been fine with if it wasn't hyped up in The Force Awakens. I don't know whether Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams talked about it, or whether J.J. Abrams was on board with this. I mean, he's doing episode 9, so I don't know whether he wanted them to be nobodies. He wanted Snoke to be someone who could be killed off instantly, or whether he wanted Rey's parents and Snoke to be people that we know or have an interest in. And I think that killing Snoke, once again, they did it in an awkward way. I think they wanted it to be slightly funny, but I think they needed it. If they were going to do it, it should have been. We should have looked into Snoke a bit more. We should have found more out about him. If it turns out that Snoke's not dead, I don't think Snoke is dead. I think that he is alive somewhere. Whether he's some sort of Sith ghost, I know that they can't really come back, but he's supposed to be incredibly powerful, more powerful than Darth Sidious. So we don't know anything about him. It could be a special species that he is that could help with this. I have no idea. But the scene of Kylo Ren and Rey teaming up with those, I've forgotten the guards' names, but that scene was amazing. I think that was brilliant. And once again, when they joined forces, I think that should have been the end of the film, right there. On to, Kylo Ren, Ben Solo. I think his arc, though, that kind of those flashbacks of Luke telling the story, then Kylo, then actually finding out the real story, or is it the real story? We don't know. I think that was brilliant. I think that was a really kind of clever way. I wasn't too fussed, like I said, about Luke Skywalker thinking, "Oh, I'm going to kill you." Nah, I've decided not to, because there could be good in you or whatever. I think that was really well done. One criticism: where are the Knights of Ren? I mean, there was a bit of hype in The Force Awakens of the Knights of Ren, who they were. There was some theories that they were the Rogue One squad, people like that. I think it's virtually, I think we now know for sure that they are a couple of the Jedi from the Luke's Jedi Academy. But I think, they missed a chance with that. Maybe, Knights of Ren versus those guards, that could have been an awesome fight as well. Who knows? Maybe after their team up, Rey would then have to somehow get out of there by defeating the Knights of Ren. Other than that, other characters, like I said, Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill portrayed that perfectly. Carrie Fisher was brilliant. The controversial bit about Princess Leia was her Force scene where she used the Force when she was blown up, and I think that scene where Ben Solo didn't shoot and his pilots surrounding him shot and blew it up, I think that was just a really good scene, really quite emotional. And I think that when I saw that, I was like, oh, if that's how she's died, that's stupid. This is a stupid scene. She better not. And I was hoping that she didn't go out then. I didn't know how they were going to bring her back, whether someone was going to turn up with a ship and grab her and take her to safety or something. I think the way she did survive was good, but not. It looked cheesy. It looked a bit off, like the humour is a bit off. I think showing that she can use the Force was a good idea. I think that was brilliant, just showing in quite an intense scene, showing that she can use it for herself instead of just relying on Luke. I think that was a good idea, but the way they pulled it off was quite bad. I will be honest with you. I think having her not die then was a good decision. I was worried that she was going to die at that point, but I think even if she drove the ship into the First Order's ship, at the end of where the purple-haired lady, I'm terrible with remembering names, but the purple-haired lady, where she drove that ship into hyperspace, and went into the First Order ship and destroyed it and sacrificed her life. I think if a lot of people were saying, oh, that should have been how Leia should have died, and I was like, no, that shouldn't. I think that she should have died in the middle of the movie. Luke Skywalker, 3/4 of the way into the movie, should have met up, gone to a planet where Leia is, and Leia should have sacrificed herself to save Luke or something, and he's just crying, he can't believe what's happened, and that should have been what changed him. That should be what turns Kylo Ren completely to the dark side, and that's what makes Luke have this battle with Kylo Ren at the end. I think that would be the deciding factor for Luke to decide to help the Resistance. But back to that full scene with Princess Leia, though. I mean, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, this is stupid, and we haven't seen these powers before." I mean, all she's doing is latching. It's like us grabbing a rope and pulling ourselves close to like a tree. If the rope's wrapped around a tree and we pull on it, then we bring our bodies up close. It's like that. Instead of the rope, she's got the force. She's just pulling herself towards it. There's nothing wrong with that. We've seen that before in the Star Wars universe. I'm sure in the old comics, which technically aren't canon anymore. But even in the Star Wars: The Clone Wars TV series, I'm pretty sure we saw something similar to that. Even if that's not how she did it, even if it was she actually used the Force on herself and pushed herself towards it, we've seen that definitely. I remember a scene with Anakin and Padme. She jumps off like a train or something, and Anakin basically makes a fly towards it. I remember that, and so this power is completely. People criticizing that is stupid. People also criticizing the Force power that Luke used. I think seeing a new power is a great idea. People saying, "Oh, the more you come up with the more Force powers you come up with, the more plot holes you're going to come up with," because people could have used that earlier. Luke Skywalker is got possibly the greatest potential, other than Anakin Skywalker, of any Jedi ever. He's going to be powerful. The reason, if he hadn't disconnected himself from the Force, I think he would have been able to pull off that feat and then survived. It's only because he'd been so long without it, and at the end he accepted what must happen, that he then gave up and let himself become one with the Force. Now I'm going to go into that. I think killing off Luke Skywalker, they shouldn't have done it in this movie. I think it should have been next movie. I think he should have sacrificed himself in some sort of way like that. I think his death in this movie was good. Not brilliant, but good. They could have done it in the next movie. I understand where they're going. They're having to kill off the old cast so they can bring the new characters in. A lot of people are angry about this. I don't mind. Of course, I mean, Harrison Ford, he wanted his character to die. I think that was an alright way. I was kind of a bit, oh, really? Okay, fair enough. I think, yeah, his death scene was fine. I don't know where they're going to go with Princess Leia next film, because sadly Carrie Fisher has passed away, but the only thing I can think of is that she passes away. I mean, the only thing, if they have said that they're not going to CGI anything, so the only way they could do it is her passing away, and I don't want them to make a big deal out of it. I don't want it to be because First Order bombed a ship she was on and now she's gone. Oh no, let's all be sad. I think the best way to honour her and to show how strong Princess Leia was is to let her die of natural causes, of maybe not a broken heart like her mum, but of natural causes, and have maybe start the film off with a funeral. I know it's a bit stereotypical, but maybe start off like that, and everyone's sad, and say, no, there might be a speech, we need to fight and win and whatever. They can't, if they do something about her blowing up in a ship and we don't get to see her, that would be a real waste. But again, I'm not too worried that she's didn't die in this film. I think that she could have sacrificed herself for Luke maybe, but other than that, I don't mind. So other than that, we got Finn. I think Finn, he was portrayed perfectly. I think his story arc with Rose was fine. I wasn't too interested in it, but it was fine. I think their mission was a bit pointless. They could have cut that entire thing out. and just had the added more to the Luke and Rey story arc and kept in the bits with Poe and purple-haired lady on the ship. Now, another thing that people don't like is the whole thing about purple-haired lady not telling Poe about the mission. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, in like the Second World War, I highly doubt the high-up officials are going to tell the soldiers exactly every single plan that's going on. But then again, it was pretty stupid. I mean, he was a high-up official. Yes, he is a hothead or whatever they used to describe him, but he knows what he's doing, and if he knew, then he would not have done all these things that basically messed up their plan. I think that who was it? Benicio del Toro? Is that his name? I can't remember. I think his character was a good idea. Bit pointless at the end. I thought that he was going to come back and do a Han Solo type rescue and like save Finn and Rose. I was quite surprised that went nowhere. He just left with his money, possibly dead. We don't know. And also Gwendolyn Christie, that's her name, Captain Phasma. What are they doing with that character? Honestly, I don't understand what they're. Twice. I mean, this is an awesome character. They're trying to set it up like Boba Fett, and they're going nowhere with it. I mean, she could still be alive. If she is alive, Episode 9, you need to do something with her because she's done nothing. We're not intimidated by her. Every time we see her, we're just like, oh, well, we know what's going to happen, and it just goes nowhere. C-3PO, I didn't mind him not doing too much. Poe Dameron, I loved how they added more to his character. Rose, I liked her backstory. The casino scene, once again, I think it was a bit pointless. I liked the idea of people selling to the First Order and the Resistance, and how it's not just the Force that is the light and dark, it's just normal people. Light and dark must come together. They are one thing. To droids though, so C-3PO, his scenes are fine. I liked how Luke gave him a little wink as he walked past. Luke's the only one that's ever treated C-3PO like nicely. He's never like slagged him off like Han Solo or whatever. R2-D2, I liked his scene showing Princess Leia's message and making Luke go back. I think that should have been the reason he would then go back, go to Leia, talk to her and have arguments or whatever, and then Ben Solo somehow, they end up facing Ben Solo and Leia sacrifices herself to save Luke, and he's in pieces and he decides to help the Resistance. That's how I think it should have gone. But I think they should have used R2-D2 a bit more. I think it was a bit underutilized. He came on the ship and he just did nothing. Chewbacca is just kind of there anyway. I mean, he had his moments with the Porgs on the Millennium Falcon in the final battle, and I think that was a good idea. I liked the new planets, even the casino planet, and at the end, I liked that boy where he used the Force to get the broomstick, and then held it up like it was a lightsaber looking up to the stars. I think that's where they're going to go with it. They're trying to insinuate that people in the Star Wars universe don't have to come from somewhere to be important. And I think that's a good direction to take it. So overall, what I'm trying to say is that there were quite a few moments that I thought that The Last Jedi didn't need. They could have taken out and it would have been fine. And if they did take it out, I think there would be a lot more fans of The Last Jedi. I am personally huge fan of Last Jedi. In my opinion, I found it more enjoyable than The Force Awakens. I can understand why people would like The Force Awakens more because of the nostalgia, and Last Jedi is just completely different, and I think that's what's turned people away. And I think it's the people that criticised The Force Awakens and said that, oh, it's just too close to the New Hope. I think are the same people that have gone, oh, it's too far away from what we know as Star Wars. I think they're the same people, and I think that they need to just accept that Star Wars is going in a new direction. If they don't like it, I mean, one, there's nothing you can do, and two, I loved it. Why don't you? I really do. I mean, the humour, fine, forget about that. The story I thought was good. Fair enough, they didn't need the Finn and Rose storyline on the casino. Finn and Rose, their character arc was fine. And that's something I haven't talked about though, is Finn. I think Finn should have died at the end. I think he should have gone in there, sacrificed himself also. I think Rose saving them was a stupid thing. But overall, I think The Last Jedi was brilliant. I loved it more than Force Awakens. It's not. I don't think it's my favourite Star Wars film, but it's one of the highest. I'd say top 3. With Empire Strikes Back probably at number 1, and then surprisingly Revenge of the Sith probably linked in with that. Again, it's quite similar to Revenge of the Sith. I love Revenge of the Sith, but then there are a few things that if you cut out, it would be brilliant. The lightsaber scene's brilliant. Like Last Jedi lightsaber scene's brilliant. Some of the humor in The Last Jedi not so good. Revenge of the Sith, it was fine because I mean the prequels were a bit more kind of lighter, or not lighter, but they kind of felt different. It was a different type of Star Wars. But yeah, overall, I love The Last Jedi. It's unfortunate that not everyone agrees. I believe that Snoke isn't dead. He is somewhere, whether he turns up in episode 9, or whether he turns up in a later trilogy. Rian Johnson is doing his trilogy, and whether that's going to get cancelled because of the backlash of this, I don't know. I'm quite happy with him doing another trilogy. I think the character of Kylo Ren and Rey, setting that up, they could have done something more with it, but otherwise it's still brilliant. I think Carrie Fisher was brilliant, Mark Hamill was brilliant. Yoda, having the cameo with Yoda was a good idea. I think, in my personal opinion, Yoda should have appeared to Rey instead of Luke and talked to Rey. Rey should have given up with Luke and gone on heads back to the Millennium Falcon or whatever to leave, and then Yoda then appears and talks to her and says basically everything that he told Luke, but not as if she's a master. But otherwise, his cameo was good. A lot of people had guessed that this was going to happen, and yeah, there's not much else to say, guys. So no, The Last Jedi is not absolute perfection. If they cut some things out, if they add a few things, then it could be. And I think it's one of my favourite Star Wars movies ever. And I hope that J.J. Abrams can resolve some of the issues that The Last Jedi had, whilst making it interesting, having as brilliant fight scenes as we did, keeping the intense space battle scenes, and also put it a bit further in the future. I mean, there was like 10 resistance people on the Falcon. I mean, if you do it like 3 months later, they're not going to have a massive army. Do it maybe 3-4 years later. You know? So anyway, guys, that's going to be it. I hope you enjoyed this little rant about it. But I do want you to know that I think it's brilliant. I've talked mostly about the issues with it. But it was, I mean, the music, the scenes were beautiful. And overall, just great. I have no issues with Luke Skywalker's personality shift. I think that would kind of be natural. Bits of the humour are a bit awkward. Otherwise, pretty damn good. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Thank you.